Hi, my name is Miriam Rosenzweig. I'm Jewish, and my heart is broken.
My name is Mark Shapiro. I am Jewish. My heart is broken. Most days, the idea of your heart being broken is one that is too hard to even think about. But for one moment today, my heart being broken may actually be for a reason. It allows for a piece of it to be here in this room, a piece of it to be in Israel, a piece of it to be in our overnight summer camps, a piece of it to be where Jews are throughout the world. Today, with Yom HaZikaron, our hearts are broken, but we still have hope that those pieces can come together.
Our Jewish tradition prescribes for us periods of time. In Kohelet, it says, Et le'ahov, et lisno, et milchama, ve'et shalom. There's a time to love and a time to hate. There's a time for war and a time for peace. But when I read those words today, I didn't know this before, but it's a much longer sentence. It also says it's a time to rip apart and a time to sew. It's a time to heal and a time to be sick. And when I think about this period of time and I think about Jewish tradition, I think about Shiva, when someone passes away. You're prescribed a 7 days of mourning. The community comes together. They support the mourner, and it ends when you walk around the block. As a Jewish community, we came together for our Shiva on October 9th, and we mourned, but we never had the chance to walk around the block. The anti-Semitism, the war, the protests began right away. We are still in it today.
Just as Judaism teaches us to follow that prescribed way, so does our Yamim. A week ago, we gathered together for Yom HaShoah. It represents the past, a horrible past, one that is the most tragic moment and one that is constantly in our mind as we hear of this being the most tragic moment in modern times. Yom HaShoah is a time to come together, Zachor, to remember, and it represents the past. Today, Yom HaZikaron, it is our now. It is that which is happening in our lives right now. The memorial for each of the people who have lost their lives, either valiantly fighting to protect Israel and the future of the Jewish people, to remember each and every one who has lost their lives, and also to hold on to hope for our hostages. Tomorrow is Yom HaAtzmaut. We bring hope for our tomorrow. The Yamim follows the prescription just the same way does the mourning, that there is the moment that is the past, there is the moment that is the now, and there is the moment that is tikva, with hope for a much better tomorrow.
I'm filled with hope when I walk through our preschool programs at Ganami, at Jewish Beginnings, at MJDS, at Jewish Mequon Preschool, and I see our children learning and celebrating being Jewish.
I am filled with hope even on a day like today when I see BBYO filling the hallways of the JCC and knowing they are the leaders of tomorrow.
I'm filled with hope when I watch our brave college students hold a Friday night Shabbat across of an encampment spewing hate against them. And I have hope in that moment.
I have hope when the word camp is used correctly. When we speak of camp filled with Jewish kids, filled with song, and this summer, as our camps step forward and are filled with more campers and staff from Israel than ever before.
And I'm filled with hope when I look at our shlichim, our youngest shlichim, our shinshinim, in our schools, looking at our Israel Campus Fellows, looking at Noah and her children and her husband Liran, who in his shlichut went and fought in Israel and came home.
I am filled with hope when we fill the shelves of our Jewish community food pantry and remember that we are a part of the community's healing, that we partner to build a much healthier community, and that running a food pantry is not just one for solving Jewish hunger, but also hopefully sharing to the world that we can bring our Jewish values to every single thing we do.
So tonight, while we have hope, we know that this hope comes at a cost, and that there are those who paid the price for us to do all of this. So tonight, we remember.
Good evening, ברוכות הבאות and ברוכים הבאים. Welcome to the 2024 Yom HaZikaron ceremony. My name is Teila Cohen, and I'm the co-chair of today's event. We are honored that you have joined the Milwaukee community for Israel's Memorial Day, commemorating Israel victims of terror and fallen soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces.
Hello, I am Bobby Rector. In planning this ceremony, we felt a weight of responsibility to adequately represent the tragedy of October 7th. On that fateful day, Jews across the world were pulled from the heights of spiritual and religious celebration of the high holidays and plunged into a world of shock, horror, and devastation. Today, while we express our overwhelming grief at the barbaric loss of life, we also want to highlight our resilience and never-ending hope for a future of peace.
We gather today to mourn the tragic loss of over 1,400 lives, innocent massacred in 22 southern communities and at the Nova Festival, hostages killed while in captivity, soldiers lost in battle in Gaza and along the northern border. They include Holocaust survivors, grandparents, parents, children, and babies. While planning for this ceremony, we desperately hope that all hostages would be home and safe by now. However, the fate of 132 souls is unknown to us this time.
We have all been affected by the events of 10/7 and of the ensuing war. In this ceremony, we will aim to capture the trauma and heartbrokenness we have been feeling over the last 7 months. With the help of our speaker, Eitan Spiegel, an esteemed therapist treating PTSD, we will learn to find strength within ourselves and from our community to demonstrate the resilience we have seen in our people for thousands of years.
As an example of this resilience, we have created a field of kalaniot, or anemone, Israel's national flowers. They were made by our young students from MJDS, the local religious schools, along with other community members. Kalaniot grow naturally in the Negev and are celebrated as a symbol of life, natural beauty, and hope, making the desert bloom. While we mourn, we are reminded that beauty grows around us even in our darkest time.
This year, we are commemorating 5 victims of terror and fallen soldiers lost to members of our Milwaukee community. As our ceremony proceeds, we will learn more about them through videos made by loved ones. Candles of commemoration will be lit for those victims by a few of the many recent volunteers and visitors to Israel since October 7th.
As you come in today, we hope you had an opportunity to place a rock or a toy out on the memorial table in memory of a victim. While their physical resting place is not here, it is a way to show support, love, and respect to those who have died. Our concluding prayer, Misha Berach, bring us together as a community as we all lift our voices for healing, strength, and courage of our brothers and sisters.
We are grateful for the clergy and community participants in today's ceremony who will help us convey the gravity of this day. We greatly appreciate the support of the Harry and Rose Samson Jewish Community Center and the Milwaukee Jewish Federation. Thank you to Noah Gerasi, Milwaukee's community shlicha, for her leadership in planning this Yom HaZikaron ceremony. A special thank you to Rina Parat for creating the Kalaniot art project you see here on stage, and to our committee members for their valuable contributions to today's events.
We are asked you to refrain from applause during the ceremony, and please take a moment to silence your electronic devices. And now, please rise for the tzfira, for the siren, as we commence with Yom HaZikaron.
You may be seated.
And I'm here today to commemorate Major Evyatar Cohen of blessed memory. I met Evyatar a little over 20 years ago while we were both serving in the Israeli military. He was a lieutenant in the company that I served in, and I had the opportunity to serve under his command often. Evyatar lived in Kfar Saba with his wife and his 4 children. He was an engineer for Coca-Cola, and despite being the age of 42, he still showed up for reserve duty in the wake and aftermath of October 7th. He ended up passing away on December 10th as a result of an IED that was detonated by Hamas in the Gaza Strip, and he left behind his wife and his 4 children. You know, the thing I would just want people to remember about Evyatar was that Evya was just a good guy. He was kind, he was gentle, he was a very religious man. His faith and his family were very, very important to him. You know, one example of just the spirit that he embodied, we would sometimes be in situations where at least 1 or 2 people would need to stay up and be awake and guard while other people got sleep in the middle of the night. And Evya would just insist. He would just stay up all night, regardless of how little sleep he got the night before, because he was just insistent that his soldiers needed to rest up and that he was going to take care of them and protect them. And no matter how tired he ever was, he never showed it. He was always upbeat. He always had a smile on his face. And I really felt like he just embodied the spirit of what the IDF could be. And that's how I remember him, and that's how I will remember him. And certainly, again, his decision to still show up for reserve duty at the age of 42. He's a good guy.
I, Rosie Vayner,
And I, Jane Avner, light this candle to commemorate Major Reserve Evyatar Kohen, son of Yafa and Yisrael. Evyatar was born on April 19, 1981, and lived in Kfar Saba. On December 10, 2023, at age 42, he fell in combat in the southern Gaza Strip. Evyatar left behind his wife Tami and 4 children, Daniel, Hadass, Eitan, and Yuval. May his memory be a blessing, Zichrono Livracha.
My name is Tom, and I'm here to talk about my friend Ido Ovadia. Ido is a close friend I met about 4 years ago through a mutual friend. He lived in Tel Aviv, which is far away from where I live in Israel, Moshavat Kinneret. But every time I came to Tel Aviv, we will always meet up and hang out at the beach. This was one of our favorite places. I remember one night, we were all laughing so hard on the swings. And that was Ido, always with a huge, beautiful smile. We were always making jokes about him being the last one to go to be a fighter. Ido graduated high school almost 2 years ago and started his military service right away as a fighter in Givati. Ido fought in Gaza after October 7th, and on October 31st, an RPG and a few other missiles hit his armored fighting vehicle. And Ido and a few of his friends got killed. On the same day, I had a phone call with one of our other friends, and we were talking about Ido. He told me that he was trying to reach out to Ido in the last few days, but he's not answering. But you know, he's probably gonna go back home on the next Thursday or something, so he's gonna answer. At the same night, after the phone call, I get a text from the same friend that says, Ido fell in Gaza. I couldn't go back to sleep at that night, and I thought about him a lot. I want everyone to remember what a hero he was, how he loved life, and how happy he was. He would always give us the best advice for everything, and he would always listen if anyone came to talk to him. As I said before, Ido was always surrounded by friends. During my visit to Israel last February, it was really important to me to go to see his grave. I was really surprised to see that he was buried right next to Tomer Leibovitz, his friend, which I also know. Ido died on October 31st when he was only 19, almost my age, but he will always be in my heart. I'm really proud I can call him my friend.
I, Yechiel Klein,
And I, Jason Levin, light this candle to commemorate Sergeant Ido Ovadia, son of Ifat and Ofer. Ido was born on February 4th, 2004, and lived in Tel Aviv. On October 31st, 2023, at the age of 19, he fell in combat in the northern Gaza Strip. Ido left behind his parents and 2 siblings, Ya'ara and Amit. May his memory be a blessing. Zichrono Livracha.
My name is Giran Girafi, part of the Shlichut family in Milwaukee. I'm here to commemorate my cousin's son, Ophir Testa. Ophir grew up in Jerusalem, at the same area I grew up in and lived for many years, and was raised in a traditional family. His parents, my cousin Betty and her husband Tal, are among the greatest and the most committed citizens a country should hope for. Betty works as a nurse for many years, and Tal, after finishing his service as a combat fighter in Golani Brigade, joined the police and served a meaningful service. Their son, Ophir, couldn't wait for his military service and yet decided to postpone his enlistment in order to go for 1 more year in a yeshiva that would prepare him for service, enrich him, and equip him with the right values and moral standards. His connection to religion grew stronger, and his mom used to refer to him as the family rabbi. Later on, Ophir joined the Israeli Armored Corps for a shortened course designed for religious soldiers. After a short training period, Ophir was sent to serve at the Gaza border with his new tank company. Felt a real sense of mission and privilege to protect Israel's border. On October 7th morning, when Hamas terrorists infiltrated Israel, Ophir and his tank squad were among the first to fight back. They managed to stop and kill dozens of terrorists on the border before they heard of a massacre going on at the music festival in Reem. They immediately drove their tank there to fight and save lives of civilians. During the heavy fighting there, a hand grenade was thrown into their tank, and Ophir was severely wounded and lost his sight almost completely. He noticed one of the unarmed ushers at the party trying to fight back alongside policemen, and handed him his rifle, saying, "I'm severely wounded and I can't really see, so I can't fight." A few seconds later, on his way back to the tank, Ophir was shocked and fell down. Ophir left behind his parents, 2 sisters, and brother. He should be remembered as a young man who loved the land of Israel, Torah of Israel, and the people of Israel, and was willing to sacrifice his life for them.
I, Leah Chernyakova,
and I, Heather Polin, light this candle to commemorate Major Ophir Testa, son of Betty and Tal. Ophir was born on December 20th, 2001, and lived in Jerusalem. At the age of 21, he fell in battle by the Gaza border on October 7th, 2023. Ophir left behind his parents, 2 sisters, and 1 brother. May his memory be a blessing. Zichrono livracha.
Hello, I'm Scott Rotter from Milwaukee originally. Lived at Kibbutz Gezer with Vivian Silver from 1981 to about 1990. After she moved away from Gezer to Kibbutz Bay, her eventual permanent home in Israel.
I'm Beryl Lutsky, and I lived at Kibbutz Gezer from 1976 to 1986, all of the time Vivian was there. And very powerful woman, and very active in the kibbutz, very active in the kibbutz movement, and a rather singular person. Vivian had a husband who preceded her in death, but she left behind a stepson and 2 sons and 4 grandchildren.
And to me, Vivian represented the people that I revered as being older than me and as being like camp counselors. I also revered Vivian as well, so that's how I knew she was a very quality person.
On October 7th, she was at her home in Be'eri, and rather ironically, only 3 days after she had been in Jerusalem at a women's wage peace march that she organized that brought 1,500 women, Palestinian and Israelis, to a peace march in Jerusalem on October 4th. She was in her homes, and as the attack unfolded, she was texting with her son as she was hiding in her safe room. And that was the last anybody heard of her. In the memorial service at Gezer because they couldn't bury her they couldn't have her at the funeral service at Be'eri because it still is a war zone. There were a number of speeches, and one of the people that spoke reminded the nearly 2,000 people who were there of a concept or an idea that Vivian had, and she called it conditional Zionism, or she defined herself as a conditional Zionist. The conditional part being that her Zionism was conditioned on the fact that it should be a Zionism that includes both Israelis and Palestinians living together. So, what would Vivian do?
I, Diana Kahn.
And I, Adam Whitkov, light this candle to commemorate Vivian Silver, daughter of Rosaline and Meyer. Vivian was born in Winnipeg, Canada on February 2nd, 1949, and moved to Israel in 1974. On October 7th, 2023, at the age of 74, she was murdered during the massacre on her kibbutz, Be'eri. Vivian left behind 2 siblings, 2 sons, and 4 grandchildren. May her memory be a blessing. Zichrona livracha.
My name is Avner Porat, and I'm here to commemorate my friend Manny Goddard and his wife Ayelet. I met Manny on August 29, 1968, on the Golan Heights. We were both recruits for the 7th Armored Division of Israel, and we ended up staying in the army together for 3 years. That's when we became good friends, and we bonded. Manny was handsome, tall, easygoing, very friendly. You couldn't get him stressed out, and everybody loved him, and those traits really carried through his life wherever he went. After the military, he decided not to go back to his kibbutz Be'eri, try his life outside, end up on the new city of Yamit. He was a lifeguard over there on the northern shores of the Sinai Peninsula. That's where he met Ayelet. And in 1980, Yamit was returned to Egypt, and they decided to go back to Be'eri. They got married, and then they raised a family there. They had 4 kids, 6 grandkids. The youngest of their kids they adopted in their mid-50s. Ayelet and Manny were very involved in the kibbutz. They were among the pillars of Be'eri, very popular, very friendly, and very active. Ayelet was a teacher on the kibbutz and outside the kibbutz. Manny was in charge of the dining room for many years, and then created an event center on the swimming pool of the kibbutz. They loved Israel, they traveled everywhere, they hiked, and they really knew the country like the back of their hands, and they had many friends everywhere. October 7th, I was awakened early in the morning, heard the news, and immediately checked with my WhatsApp feed what's going on. This was my army unit that Manny actually created, that group. Everybody was looking for Manny, and later on, one of the guys said, "Look, I just talked to Ayelet, and it was 7:30 in the morning. She said, Manny is dying in my arms, but I have to leave the place. I have to run and hide. The Hamas terrorists are coming back." 2 hours later, my friend managed to talk to Ayelet again, and that was the last time anybody heard from her. A few days later, we realized they were both murdered brutally. Ayelet's body was only identified about 3 weeks later, and Manny's body was taken to Gaza by the Hamas terrorists. We are now waiting and hoping that Manny's remains will be returned to Israel, and the family will be able to have some kind of a closure that he can be buried near his wife Ayelet. I personally also hope that these kids will be able to continue their life on Kibbutz Be'eri. They'll be able to return and rebuild their lives, rebuild the kibbutz, rebuild the community their parents built, and continue the legacy of Manny and Ayelet and all their friends who were killed on Kibbutz Be'eri. This was an amazing place, amazing people, just hard to believe. I will miss them dearly and will remember them forever. May they rest in peace.
I'm Bernie Cohen.
And I, Jessica Kalmar, light this candle to commemorate Ayelet Godard, daughter of Rachel and Yosef. Ayelet was born on June 28, 1960. On October 7, 2023, at age 63, she was murdered at her home in Be'eri. May her memory be a blessing. Zichrona Livracha.
We also light a candle to commemorate Manny, or Menachem Goddard, son of Sonia and Yaakov. He was born on August 15th, 1950. On October 7th, 2023, at the age of 73, he was murdered at his home in Be'eri and his body being held in Gaza. Manny and Ayelet left behind their 4 children, Mor, Gal, Bar, and Goni, a number of grandchildren, and several siblings. May his memory be a blessing. Zichrona Livracha.
Please rise. Hamitzei menucha nechona al kanfei hashechina bima'alot kedoshim tehorim vegiborim kizar harakia meirim umazhirim lenishmot hakedoshim ezrechei Yisrael anashim nashim v'taf shenergu shenirtzechu shenisrefu shenitbechu bidei miratchei בני האבלה, ומסרו נפשם על קידוש השם. בהתקפה האכזרית על יישובי מדינת ישראל, ולנשמות חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל, שוטרי משטרת ישראל ואנשי כוחות הביטחון שמסרו נפשם על קדשת השם ונפלו מות גיבורים בקרבות על הגנת העם והארץ. בעבור שאנו מתפללים לעלו נשמותיהם בגן עדן תהא מנוחתם. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמותיהם. אדוני הוא נחלתם, וינוחו בשלום על משכבותם, ויעמדו לגורלם לקץ הימים. ונאמר Amen. Please remain standing.
יזכור עם ישראל את בניו ובנותיו, אשר חרפו במאבק על המדינה בדרך, ואת חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל, אשר נפלו במלחמות ישראל. יזכור ישראל ויתברך בזרעו, ויאבל על זיו העלומים, וחמדת הגבורה וקדושת הרצון ומסירות הנפש, אשר נשפו במערכות הכבדות. יהיו גיבורי הדור והניצחון, הנאמנים והאמיצים, חתומים בלב ישראל לדור ודור. אמן.
May God remember his sons and daughters who endangered their lives in the days of struggle prior to the establishment of the State of Israel, and may he remember the soldiers of Sahal who fell in the wars of Israel. May the people of Israel keep them in their hearts, and may their memories be a blessing. May they commemorate their lost youth, their bravery and valor, their devotion and self-sacrifice, which ended on the battlefield. May the memory of the loyal and valiant heroes of freedom and victory be sealed forever within the hearts of Israel. Amen. Please be seated.
זה לא כל כך פשוט להיות כאן ילד, לשמוע חדשות בכל חצי שעה, לדעת שהיכן פשוט עוד אמא מתפללת, תקתוק שעון עומד דמעה ועוד דמעה. זה לא כל כך פשוט להיות כאן ילד, ללמוד בבית הספר על המלחמות, זה רק כאן פשוט אבל ממש מתחילת אני יודעת רק שכאן אני רוצה לחיות.
Thank you, Mara, and the incredible Milwaukee Jewish Day School students. That was so beautiful. October 7th had a profound impact on all of us, but the level of trauma affecting those in Israel is unimaginable, and the lasting effects of that trauma will carry through generations if not addressed. I saw this firsthand when I led the Milwaukee Jewish Federation Solidarity Mission to Israel this past March. The need for mental health services has never been greater, and I'm proud to share that our work supporting the Israel Emergency Fund has been critical to impacting these needs in Israel. This fund, made possible through our community's generous support, has already helped a long list of mental health programs. Here are just a few of the programs: the Israel Trauma Coalition, Association of Rape Crisis Centers, Israel Center on Addiction and Mental Health, and the Jerusalem Center for Mental Health. Milwaukee Jewish Federation is grateful to have Jewish Family Services as a partner in addressing mental health needs across the Milwaukee community. Please join me in welcoming Kevin Bolin, Vice President of Programs and Services at JFS, who will introduce our guest speaker tonight.
Every year, Yom HaZikaron is a profound experience in which we mourn the lives of those who left our world too abruptly. For each of these individuals, their loved ones must go through the grieving process, but this loss is also felt throughout the Jewish community. This year, we lament this loss in ways we never thought possible and at a magnitude previously unthinkable in Israel, our homeland. As we continue to process the trauma of October 7th, the world's reactions on October 8th, in the days and months since then, we have all experienced an array of heavy emotions that escort us throughout the day. Anger, sorrow, frustration, loneliness, and despair, just to name a few. We work, go to school, make dinner, put our kids to bed, go grocery shopping, all while in the background, rapidly trying to come to terms with things that aren't easy to come to terms with. Today, we aim to learn more about the trauma response and what we can do on our end to help ourselves and others heal during difficult times. Today, we are very honored to welcome Eitan Spiegel. Eitan joins us from Kfar Tavor in our partnership region of Sovev Kinneret. He is not only a clinical psychologist, but the founder and director of Eitan Center, a psychotherapy center in Kfar Tavor. After serving in the IDF and obtaining his bachelor's degree in psychology, Eitan worked towards his master's degree in clinical child psychology. During his internship as a mental health officer in the IDF, he was first exposed to the world of trauma therapy. Eitan has served in the reserves as a therapist in the Battle Responses Unit of the IDF from 2014 until present, and currently serves as head of the Battle Response Team in Northern Command. He also worked as a clinical psychologist on the Emek Stations team and as a kindergarten psychologist in Gilboa Regional Council. Eitan is an ongoing consultant at the Institute for Care Soldiers in the IDF. And in the current conflict, he served as the head of a team of therapists providing mental health treatment to combat casualties. We are grateful for Eitan's service and are honored to learn from his expertise and experience. Please welcome our speaker, Eitan Spiegel.
Today, here in Milwaukee, thousands of kilometers from the state of Israel, we mark Memorial Day for the fallen soldiers of Israel and victims of terror. On this day, we pause to honor the memory of those who are no longer with us and reflect on the profound impact their loss has had on our lives and our nation. The events of October stand before us this year as a harsh reminder of life's fragility and the unpredictable nature of tragedy. Sometimes all that stands between us and tragedy is luck. Life is an ongoing journey, characterized by peaks and valleys, joys and sorrows. Each person has their own journey and their own story. As a psychologist, I have been exposed to the life stories of many others. Tonight, in a different way, I want to share with you my journey of recent times, a journey that is both personal and national, emotional and professional. It is a journey where I encounter second and third degree trauma in ways I have not been exposed to before and in various different aspects. It is far from being a typical journey that travels a straight line, but rather resembles a spiral movement. I hope that through my journey since October, you will be able to get a glimpse of how people feel when they go through difficult events and how they react. I hope that together we will observe the ability of the soul to recover in some cases, or to find some comfort in other cases. I hope that by the end of my talk, you will believe that flowers can bloom again under suitable conditions. Like many therapists in Israel, I am increasingly exposed today to people who have experienced horrors throughout the country. However, it is important for me to emphasize that as a person who lives in the north and who served as a reserve officer at the northern border, I am not exposed to the people who experienced the severe horrors that occurred in the south. I stand humbly before the civilian and military therapists who are at the forefront of treating the hard cases from October up until today. So where was I moments before October the 7th? I was busy operating the private clinic I opened at the beginning of the year. After the holidays in Israel, which marked the beginning of the year of studies and activities, I was waiting with anticipation to return and meet with my team. I had finished organizing the training year and activities for them for the upcoming year. At the same time, I was treating my patients, which include children, adolescents, and adults. A high percentage of my patients in the clinic are discharged soldiers who are diagnosed with PTSD, and I feel quite skilled in working with people who have been through difficult events. Working with the discharged soldiers is part of my reserve duty, but it is carried out in my private clinic, and I can't remember when was the last time I actually wore my army uniform. October 7th. I woke up in the morning and opened the internet, realizing there was escalation in the south. Overall, it felt like a routine event in Israel, and I was waiting to hear that things were back under control. This is the first thing humans do when they are in distress. Our attachment patterns encourage us to seek help from others, and in this case, to wait for the IDF to finish its work and for calm to return. Bit by bit, reports start coming in, and rumors begin circulating that this time the event is more severe than usual. The body goes into a fight-or-flight mode, becoming more alert and attentive to information from the surroundings. Long-standing holiday plans are canceled, but I still feel inside me but I still feel inside me the expectation and believe that soon I will return to my regular routine. I feel sorry for those who are suffering right now and hope that they will be treated close to the event by skilled people. At this stage, the mind is scripting scenarios from familiar templates of time and space. A pattern of a mild event shifted to a pattern of a significant event, and later to a pattern of a very difficult event. As the day progresses, even the familiar patterns shatter. The IDF doesn't gain control of the event as quickly as I'm accustomed to. The number of casualties is beyond the patterns I know. The victims are not just adults, and the acts of horror are beyond any imagination. As the familiar patterns break, a certain sense of despair and helplessness begins to creep in. I wholeheartedly believe that IDF will recover, even if it takes time. But maybe I'm still trapped in patterns that are no longer relevant to the current situation. I remember that in time like this, action and meaning are very helpful in coping with tension. My wife and I started organizing the safe room and stuck in it for a prolonged stay. Throughout the day, I realized that this time the safe room itself could be a hovering death trap over us. But still, it's the best we can do right now. When the safe room is organized, we feel a slight sense of relief. In Sunday morning, an army orders are coming through WhatsApp messages. And I start organizing my briefcase. I put in 2 books of trauma that I've already read several times, but I feel the need to have them by my side again. I still don't know where I'll be sent and what my role will be, but from here on out, my civilian stage is over, and my part in the war as an officer in the mental health department begins. October 8th until early December. We arrive at the recruitment base and organize our equipment. The importance of the military role for me has never been as significant as in these 2 months. The transition from despair, lack of energy, and the humiliation I felt on Shabbat morning to the pride and sense of togetherness I felt later that day was huge. The massive call-up of reserves and overwhelming outpouring of volunteers of all ages greeting us along the roads and in gas stations with cheers of encouragement and gifts ranging from shampoos to drawings just one day later was incredibly significant to me. Our previous team leader retired and I was appointed as the new team leader. My attention is divided between the south, where the fighting continues, and the north. With the little energy I have left, I communicate with home, which is an hour's drive away, but feel very distant right now. People are sharing harsh videos with each other. I decided not to watch any of them. I feel that I need to preserve emotional space for myself, to take care of those who will come to us soon and those I will meet after the war. We gather equipment from a huge warehouse, and randomly, I receive a kit bag with my name on it. It's a kit bag from the period I served in the mandatory service in the IDF. We all laughed at the coincidence, the first time in a day and a half. We're lucky. I sent the picture to my family's WhatsApp group, and my niece, who serves in the IDF as a spokesperson, asked for permission to post it on the IDF spokesperson Instagram. They are looking for human stories that can give people a little relief. I asked her if she thinks it's not too early. She says they've decided that no matter what, they must start to bring a little light. I agree, and for the first time in my life, I appear on Instagram. The picture and caption gather many likes and supportive comments. I'm glad to know that I helped a little and my mood improved slightly. We have no idea we're heading to the place that will be our home for the next 2 months. I won't see my family again for 3 weeks. We settle in a kindergarten that best suits our work needs. It's a very surreal setting. Military equipment next to dolls, low chairs, and tables. I feel that now would be a suitable time to tell you about our team. The team's goal is to reintegrate soldiers who have experienced combat stress reaction and functional decline back into their units, and to prevent or reduce the likelihood of developing PTSD. Our team is diverse and consists of psychiatrists, clinical psychologists, social workers, and administrative personnel. Those people will become very close to me during this period. Fortunately, we have a shared sense of humor and similar interests. And despite the difficulties, our stay has been pleasant and cohesive. In my spare time, I reach out to each of my clinic patients, updating them that I am okay, but unsure when I'll return to work. Therapists who are not working in the South or in the reserves began to send a lot of professional materials. The immense quantities does not reassure us. On the contrary, it arouses our suspicion that we don't know enough about the subject. We decide to clarify the information thoroughly, and most importantly, to rely on ourselves. The main therapeutic work with people after a difficult event is calming the nervous system. Sleep, food, routine, and activity are more important than any sophisticated psychological insight. It seems simple, but the automatic human response of the trauma patient is a mix of panic and compassion that leads to avoidance behaviors. When a therapist sees a person in a frozen state or talking endlessly, there is a natural desire to suppress this behavior with medication or transfer to a quiet place like a hospital. But we trust ourselves to handle the events that will come our way. I report that the clinic is set up and the team is ready to admit patients. In the first days, we start receiving soldiers who were afraid because of the security situation in the north. And together with them, reserve soldiers who were at the Nova Festival and who by Saturday evening were already called up to the border near us. Another significant vulnerable population are reserve soldiers who fought in Tzuk Eitan 2014, now feeling the return and the reoccurrence of trauma. Some came to us because they feared something was wrong with them. Some came to talk and share what they saw. They want to show us videos of the massacre. They want to share. We listen to everyone and explain that they are having a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. Most of them return to the unit the same day. Some ask to go to a newly opened healing center, and we release them there. Some stay with us for a period of 2 or 3 days and become part of the team for some time. They sleep next to us, cook with us, talk about everything that's happening. This is a picture of a meal prepared by one of the soldiers who was at the Nova Festival and later came to us. I want to share with you about 2 encounters we had in our team. We met G, a former paratrooper who participated in the Nova party. He arrived a few hours before the massacre and managed to escape from there. He wants to tell his story. Between the lines, I hear questions from him about his behavior during the massacre. Did he function well? Did he take advantage at the expense of others' life? Feeling of guilt during a difficult event are very common. They are an expression of an attempt to rearrange the world into a familiar pattern, in which everything has order and logic. In the face of the breaking of patterns and feeling of lack of control the trauma generates, guilt builds a narrative of cause and effect. For the guilty person, the reason for the difficult event is that an action he took resulted in harm to others. In this way, the person reorganizes his world and gains a sense of control, but is subject to perpetual guilt. Particularly familiar is the guilt of survivor, which appears in almost 50% of survivors of difficult events. G stayed with us for 3 days and his condition improved. And eventually, he was released from the military and went to the compound set up for the Nova survivors. We also met M, a young warrior from the Bedouin detachment, who came after a battle in the north. He was catatonic. His face was frozen, and he didn't seem to hear. His movements were slow. His commander who brought him told us that he was an excellent soldier and responded well during the battle. A few hours after the battle, he started to become quiet and withdrawn until his current state. Despite the desire to wrap him and hug him and just let him be, we also understand the significance of functioning during this time. After a shower, changing clothes, and resting, we ask him to participate in our team tasks. 24 hours after his arrival, we begin to hear his first words. His body becomes less frozen. He looks like someone thawing after a long freeze. It's not the first time I've seen such a situation, but it always moves me anew. And without being too sensitive, I would say it's like rebirth. In addition to treating soldiers who have dealt with combat reaction, we have become a resource of knowledge for commanders and therapists in the field, as well as for many people who knew us from our civilian life. Many questions flood to us, questions we were never asked before. For example, parents call to ask when the right time is to tell their son that his close friend was killed. Family members consult on how to tell young children what happened. Among all these conversations, friends and family call to ask how I'm taking care of myself. It's a question I'm used to hearing as a psychologist, but this time it feels a little different. The one who asks doesn't always know that he's touching a sensitive subject called secondary trauma. Secondary trauma describes a situation in which a person develops post-traumatic symptoms after being exposed to the traumatic details of another person's event. I can say that one of the significant things that helped me in the war was our team. We created a very cohesive atmosphere with lots of moments together. Joint exercise, board games, team members' mothers bringing food from home, lots of guitar playing and singing together. My military service went on until we were released 2 months later. Today, I continue my reserve service in my private clinic as before the war. And now that I have described to you what happened to me in this war, I want to share with you my insight about these events and about the possible ways to cope with difficult life events. During my current visit to Milwaukee community, I learned that the war has long extended beyond Israel's borders, and challenging events are undermining the sense of security here as well. I hope that tonight's words will strengthen those who need encouragement, comfort those who need solace, and help all of us to see the light in these dark times. In keeping with the theme of this evening, I will use the metaphor of the flower that returned to bloom. For the lone flower, there is a potential for growth, but it needs the right condition to realize that potential. Let us see what are the conditions the flower needs and what are the conditions that the person needs. Water. The Torah is compared to water. The water is our faith, our philosophy, whether religious or secular. Our faith gives meaning to our existence and to the suffering we go through in our lives. And as Viktor Frankl wrote in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, there is nothing in the world that can help a person overcome the worst of all, like the knowledge that there is a purpose to this life. Light. In difficult times, it is natural to feel overwhelmed and lost. We may doubt our ability to overcome the challenges we face, doubt whether we have the strength to persevere. Sometimes we lose hope, but just as the sunlight breaks through the darkest clouds, hope emerges after the darkness of evil. The words of Leonard Cohen, a revered poet and songwriter, resonate in my head. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. In the face of adversity, this hope is what guides us forward. Difficult events come in many forms: personal losses, community tragedies, global crises. They shake us to the depths of our soul, leaving us wounded and uncertain. But even in the darkest moments, there is a reason to hope. Cohen's words remind us that even in our brokenness, there is beauty and strength. Roots. Inspired by our shared heritage, we find comfort in the wisdom of our ancestors who endured hardships with unwavering faith. Our ancestors who faced persecution and hardships with unwavering determination serve as beacons of hope for us today. Their legacy is a legacy of resilience and courage. Their stories remind us that even in the darkest moments of our lives, we have the strength to overcome hardships and emerge stronger on the other side. We are a part of a rich network of people who have survived storms and come out stronger. Patience. Every flower has its own growth rate. In addition to all the conditions I mentioned, it also needs patience from the gardener. Patience is based on belief in the process and life force. Our role as caregivers, not only to the people around us, but to ourselves as well, is to our role as caregivers, not only to the people around us, but to ourselves as well, is to open the crack that Cohen referred to in his song. We need to open the crack for the flower, to water it when one's water sources have dried up, to shine on it when one's inner light weakness and almost goes out. We need to give the flower what it needs to reconnect to its growth. It is impossible to rush it. Everyone has their own process at their own pace. I want to thank you for the invitation to speak to you and for listening tonight. I hope that we all be good gardeners for one another. and together we'll see the flowers return to their bloom. Thank you.
Please rise if you are able for a prayer for the welfare and the return of Israel's captured and missing from among our sisters and brothers. God of Israel, our rock and our redeemer, God of mercy, of compassion, we pray, we plead that you return these precious and beloved people, the captured and the missing, who have been torn from their homes and carried off to our enemy's territory. We are terrified, contemplating their fate, and horrified at the thought of what the missing and the captured are suffering right now. They lie beyond our reach and our capacity to save them. And so we plead before you, God of mercy, be at their side, support them, protect them, and quickly bring them back to the embrace of their families and all who love them. As you have declared, thus says Adonai, behold, I will restore the captives of Jacob's tents and have mercy on their dwelling places. We beseech you, Adonai, quickly fulfill your word. Here I am with you. I will watch over you wherever you go and will bring you back to this land. Indeed, I will not leave you until I have done what I have said to you. And let us say, Amen. And please remain standing.
Good evening. The last time I had the opportunity to address our community was November 1st at a community gathering just a few weeks into the war. On that occasion, for that occasion, I composed a prayer for the safety of the soldiers, inspired by a famous passage in Deuteronomy about soldiers going off to war. That inspiration was true, but it was not the whole truth. My poem and prayer were inspired by a picture I'd seen just a day or two before in the Times of Israel of beautiful soldiers already killed in this war. And I composed a prayer that began with a reflection on their faces, hoping against hope, praying against harsh reality, that they would return safely home. Our gathering here this evening is where that intense hope comes crashing into the wall of the painful, inevitable reality of war. And still, as Eitan Spiegel, you taught us so beautifully, and still we yearn and look forward to the day when soldiers will come home safe, when soldiers will not again have to go out to war. And in that same spirit, I ask you please to join me now in the Kaddish, to say the words of the Kaddish, or to answer Amen, as we look forward to the day when we can, with full and joyous hearts, affirm the unbroken unity of God's great name. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Bagala v'izman kariv imaru amein. ישמי רבה מבורך לעולם ומעומיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה וימרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל וימרו אמן.
מי שברך אבותינו אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא ההגנה לישראל, העומדים על משמר ארצנו וערי אלוהינו מגבול לבנן ועד מדבר מצרים, ומן הים הגדול עד לבוא הערבה, ביבשה, באוויר ובים. ייתן אדוני את אויבינו הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה, מכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשי ידיהם. ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם, ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון. ויקוים בהם הכתוב, כי אדוני אלוהיכם ההולך עמכם להילחם לכם, עם אויביכם להושיע אתכם, ונאמר אמן.
May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Leah, and Rachel, bless the soldiers of Israel's defense forces who stand guard over our land and our people. May God cause the enemies who rise up against us to submit before them. May the Blessed Holy One protect and deliver our soldiers from every trouble and distress, and from every affliction and illness. And may God send blessing and success in their every endeavor. May God grant our soldiers wisdom, understanding, and insight, so that they do not destroy the righteous with the wicked. As it is written in your Torah, far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating them the same. May God bring our enemies under the sway of our soldiers, and grant our soldiers salvation, and crown them with victory. And may there be fulfilled for them the verse, for it is Adonai, your God, who goes with you to battle your enemies for you, to save you. And let us say, Amen.
please rise for the American and Israeli anthem.
I, Tom Ram,
and I, Eitan Mizrahi, partnership together, Shins of Milwaukee Jewish Community, light this last candle of hope for the future, for peace and tranquility in Israel, today and for generations to come. And for the glory of the State of Israel, ולתפארת מדינת ישראל.
תם ונשלם טקס יום הזיכרון. I hope we succeeded in fulfilling the weighty task we undertook to honor and remember the fallen soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces and victims of terror on this Memorial Day. I want to thank everyone who participated in preparing for this day. Please take a moment to visit the beautiful exhibition dedicated to those lost to us since October 7th, just in the hallway. And I hope to see you with us also at the Independence Day celebration on May 19th here at the JCC. Before you're leaving, I want to welcome the cantors. Here they are.
Yom HaZikaron is never easy, but this year our hearts are heavy with the weight of the current situation. In these difficult times, we take a moment to acknowledge all those affected, the hostages being held against their will, the worried families waiting for news of their loved ones, the soldiers risking their lives to protect others, and all of us here today who are grappling with fear, uncertainty, and grief. Yom HaZikaron is a day to remember fallen soldiers and victims of terrorism. But this year, as violence and unrest surge, we expand our circle of compassion. We pray for the safety of those in harm's way. We pray for the strength for those consumed by fear. We pray for peace for those whose hearts are filled with sorrow. And we pray for healing for the bereaved, the traumatized, the injured, and for the country we love. As we now join together in Debbie Friedman's Misha Berach for healing, may we provide comfort to all those who are in pain, and may this prayer for recovery remind us that hope and healing are possible, even in the darkest of times. Please join us as we all sing the Misha Berach together.
Good night.